I'll be doing my presentation on the patriarch in the Iroquois society. Patriarch in the Iroquois Society by Logan Oakes, INDG 258, Gender Issues and Indigenous Studies. The Iroquois, Confederacy and Society. The Iroquois Confederacy. Five nations came together and formed a confederacy. The Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca formed an alliance in 1142. Together, they became known as the Iroquois Confederacy and are a significant model in the history of North America. Some aspects of their structure was implemented into the United States Constitution. Women and men exercised the same powers in the society. The Confederation, with its five peoples, was understood to be configured like a longhouse, with the Mohawks acting as guardians of the eastern door, the Senecas as guardians of the western door, and the Onondagas as the central firekeepers. The longhouse shows that these five peoples saw themselves as symbolically related to each other. Iroquois Society. Balance defines the Iroquois society as men and women were on equal footing. The men and women had reciprocal relationships that did not require power struggles. The social and political order presented itself not as a top-down domination, but as a network based on consciousness building from below. The significant role the Iroquois women had in every aspect within the Iroquois society played an essential role in the cohesion and success of the community, particularly in the creation of the Iroquois Confederacy and the role within the political structures. They were the ones in charge of deciding whether going to war with another tribe was worth the risk, and their ability to vote in hereditary chiefs for Pacific council seats held by the clans, and notably their ability to strip a hereditary chief of his power. JIGONASEH, the matriarchal leader of the Iroquois and the co-founder of the Iroquois Confederacy. JIGONASEH, the Mother of Nations, was an influential Seneca leader. She was instrumental in creating and enacting the Great Law of Peace among the Onondaga, Mohawk, Oneida, Cayuga, and Seneca. Together, they became known as the Iroquois Confederacy. Even before the peacemaker and Hiawatha came to her for help in uniting all the tribes, she was a unique legend among all the warriors. Soraya INDG stated that JIGONASEH had a longhouse sitting at the crossroads between nations and was a sanctuary among different tribes and individuals traveling. She would let anyone stay at her longhouse, but as long as peace was agreed between the individuals, they were treated equally. Hence, she exuded kindness and cultivated experience to forge small alliances between individuals and tribes for years. Thus, the peacemaker and Hiawatha chose to help unite all five of the tribes that make up the Iroquois Confederacy. It all begins with the profound, significant role the Iroquois woman played. Her push for peace and prosperity brought cohesion at the political, social, economic, and cultural levels within the Iroquois society. JIGONASEH's gift for uniting people is like the sacred Iroquois story of Sky Woman, in which unification of the sky and earth is the point. The story completes the full circle of Sky Woman's life from daughter to mother to grandmother, and the full circle of her way from the sky down to the earth and from there into the underworld and back to the sky. On this way, she accomplished the unification of earth and sky. Cultural context. JIGONASEH in the matriarchal society of the Iroquois. The most powerful of the spirits is the all-encompassing mother in all her aspects. This encompasses the Iroquois concerning the great respect and impacts the Iroquois woman has in the tribe. The Iroquois Confederacy helped me understand the principle of a balanced collaboration between two equivalent powers with regards to man and woman within indigenous tribes. This balance plays a role within many aspects of the Iroquois society, as both male and female figures were incredibly instrumental in creating the Iroquois Confederacy. In Iroquois society, the women were in control of their labor and specifically food, while the men performed agricultural in the clearing of land at the direction of women. Iroquois highly sought group cohesion, and the clan mothers were the reason for it, as they are the bearers of life. JIGONASEH and the Peacemaker would team up and travel to Mohawk, Wendigo, Cayuga, Seneca territories and propose a peace that would benefit all tribes. JIGONASEH would become head of the Women's Council, thus the committee would have the power to elect which chiefs would now become council representatives, which were called hereditary chiefs, and were selected exclusively by women for specific council seats held by the clans. The power and influence JIGONASEH had in matriarchal society were astonishing in that women were even exclusive guardians of war and peace. That is, they had the right to decide these matters. Issues that JIGONASEH had to face. JIGONASEH faced a couple of issues. One of those issues was being viewed as a double-crosser in aiding warriors when they would come through her camp. On a side note, this was before the forming of the Iroquois society. Furthermore, others maybe had a different view of her. This is exemplified when the Peacemaker chides her for feeding the warriors, thereby aiding and abetting warfare. JIGONASEH upheld the notion of peace as long as their longhouse was a place of absolute sanctuary. Furthermore, JIGONASEH had to deal with another issue from Ta'adahu, who was the chief priest of the Onondagas. This war-thirsty, stubborn war chief rejected the idea of confederacy. Thus, after many disagreements between Ta'adahu and the other four tribes, Ta'adahu eventually agreed to join the Confederacy, but only because they offered him the job of first chairman of the Men's Grand Council of the League. According to Haji, JIGONASEH was not satisfied, as she heard stories of Ta'adahu beating his wives in his longhouse, and thus she felt he cannot be amended. She therefore walks straight up to him and orders him to strike her. Ta'adahu in the end was taken aback and bowed his head in shame, as he realized his old ways were cruel and were not accepted. In other words, JIGONASEH came across issues that challenged her belief in peace and balance in her life, and the life of the Iroquois Confederacy. JIGONASEH's influence. The sad thing was at the time, mainstream media never covered any Native issue. Ellen Gabriel is a Mohawk activist and was one of the leading figures during the Oka crisis. She continues to engage in activism across Indigenous country and is known for her calm but forcible assertion of rights. A quote by Ellen Gabriel in which she talks about what influenced her to become an activist as a young child. There in the notes was an article regarding the Black Hills and how the Hopi and Navajo peoples were trying to stop uranium mining in their territory. I remember reading a quote from an elder that digging uranium out of the earth was like pulling the lungs out of Mother Earth. It was a statement that touched me, as I had never heard anyone speak in such a way to defend the rights of Mother Earth. In the end, the influence of JIGONASEH cannot be understated. Her effort for peace and matriarchal influence within a tribe is another example of how First Nation tribes respect a strong matriarchal role in society. Thank you, and thanks for the class, Professor Bird.